things right now is the illusion that alternative technologies like wind and solar are somehow different from fossil fuels. Well, I hear a lot of the times that solar cells are made out of sand.
Have you ever thought about solar panels? The main ingredient that makes them work is silicon or sand.
This is the raw material chips are made of, sand.
They don't use sand at all. So they use, I'll show you what. So this is one of the ingredients. It's actually mined quartz.
Spruce Pine, North Carolina, regarded as the finest source of high-purity quartz in the world for semiconductor, solar, and communication applications.
But you can't use sand because sand has too many impurities. So you start with a very high-quality quartz and a very high-quality coal. And then you put those two together into an arc furnace, and you melt them.
The quartz is then melted with coal in a large furnace at temperatures of up to 1,800 degrees.
So you need more coal to do that. So I get another coal out. So when we melt these together, we get silicon metal and carbon dioxide. And the carbon dioxide just goes off, and you got rid of the carbon, you're left with silicon metal. This is not clean coal.
Not clean coal.
Ozzie Zenner said it was an illusion that renewables were replacing coal or any fossil fuel. Environmental groups continued telling a different story.
We've already seen more than 25% of the U.S. coal fleet has already either retired or is on a schedule to retire.
Coal plants were closing, but Ozzie explained that well-meaning people were being misled.
NV Energy is now going to go ahead and shut down the plant and go with renewable. One of the largest solar plants, and that's going to happen right behind me.
Since you can't replace a coal plant with solar, they're actually replacing the coal plant with two natural gas plants. And natural gas is a fossil fuel. This is the Las Vegas cogen natural gas plant. This is one of the facilities that's replacing the coal plant that's being shut down. This is the Sun Peak General facility. This is the second natural gas plant that was used to replace the coal plant. And you hear the same story in Iowa.
Instead of using energy generated by coal-fired power plants, the solar farm will now avoid about 2.1 million pounds of carbon pollution.
But then they're building a larger natural gas plant. This is a 650 megawatt natural gas plant. That's 4 times more megawatts than the coal plant over there that it's replacing. And they're doing the same thing in North Carolina, which was the subject of that Years of Living Dangerously series.
Duke Energy operates a coal plant right outside of Asheville that is the biggest source of climate pollution in western North Carolina. And we are working to retire that plant and replace it with clean energy.
But what they don't tell you is that we're also building a larger natural gas facility.
So we'll be retiring the 2-unit, 376 megawatt coal plant. We'll invest $750 million to build a state-of-the-art natural gas plant.
When Michael Brune stands up and talks about clean energy, he's using solar cells and wind turbines.
This is the new world, 100% clean energy.
When Michael Bloomberg stands up and says cleaner energy, he's talking about natural gas.
Create cleaner energy, solar, wind, and natural gas.
In fact, the Sierra Club's Beyond Coal campaign actually coincides with one of the largest expansions of fossil fuel production that we've ever pulled off, most of that being natural gas.
Ozzie's assertion that renewables were not replacing fossil fuels, if true, would upend all of our assumptions about green energy and what was going to save us. What would happen if I asked the same question to industry insiders? Like, where do solar panels come from?
Well, you have to start with a mine.
Or, what's stopping us from running the world on 100% solar and wind?
Well, intermittency is one of the major challenges with
grid stability.
The sun's everywhere except when it's not there.
There's a lot of developers that were flocking to California wanting to connect their solar farms and wind farms. The utilities would turn to me and my team to help them look at what the impact to their grid would be.
When we add solar cells or wind turbines to a grid, do we get to shut off a coal plant?
That's certainly the goal. The problem is, or the difference is that renewables are intermittent. All of a sudden a cloud cover could come over and your solar generation could drastically decrease. And if you don't have something else there to meet whatever the load is at that moment, then you're going to have power outages.
So we don't get to turn a fossil fuel power plant off when the sun is shining or the wind is blowing?
Well, it's not that easy. We need to be able to back up that power to keep the system steady all the time so it doesn't collapse. Most likely that's through fast-acting gas plants, but also the what we call the baseload plants, either nuclear or coal, that are on all the time, but that maybe can be dialed down during the day and dialed up when demand starts rising.
Does it affect the efficiency to turn fossil fuel power plants on and off?
Oh yeah, they don't like to be dialed up and down. It does make, that's wear and tear for them.
Turning them on, turning it off, there's energy used and lost in any time. Kind of like when you turn your car and off, you use a little extra gas to get it turned on. I do still think you have to maintain a base load of some kinds.
What's the solution then?
You need energy storage.
Without storage, you can't count on it.
If you can store the energy that's created off of things that are intermittent, like solar and wind, you can store that, then you're reducing your need for a base load.
But would adding storage like batteries increase the carbon footprint?
Yeah, absolutely. In a big way, actually. And as more energy storage gets on the grid, it has a mass scale implication.
When I looked up how much battery storage there is, it was less than 0.1% of what's needed. In a couple of years, they begin to degrade and need to be replaced a few years later. I learned that the solar panels don't last forever either.
Some solar panels are built to last only 10 years, so that it's not as if you get this just magic free energy, right? I don't know that it's the solution, and here I am helping to sell in materials that would go into photovoltaics.
And so, to overcome profound limitations of solar and wind, rarely discussed in the media, a new generation of technology was rising in the California desert.
What is this? What we're using is a field of mirrors to focus sunlight onto a tower. The power plant itself, at 377 megawatts, will be the largest of its kind in the world.
This will become the biggest solar plant in the world. There's some people that look out in the desert and they see miles and miles of emptiness. I see miles and miles of a gold mine.
But this next generation had a fossil fuel secret too.
This solar facility burns natural gas pretty much every morning in order to get it started up.
How long do they have to burn it for?
Hours usually. This is the incoming natural gas for the facility. This plant would work about as well without natural gas as I would without coffee in the morning.
Or maybe how you would be without food.
Without food, yeah. They have to file for acid rain permits for nitrous oxide emissions. They have to apply for carbon offset permits because they're producing carbon dioxide here, so they have to offset that. The whole thing is built using fossil fuel infrastructure, from the concrete to the steel to the mirrors to the backing on the mirrors. The sun is renewable, but the solar arrays are not.
Oh, come on. There's got to be something renewable. Glass is renewable.
Glass is not renewable.
Iron's renewable. Aluminum, that's renewable. I recycle my pop soda cans. I know it's renewable.
Yeah, the problem with all of these materials is that it takes an incredible amount of energy to mine and process all of the materials that go into building something like this. You use more fossil fuels to do this than you're getting benefit from it. You would have been better off just burning the fossil fuels in the first place instead of playing pretend.